Welcome to another episode of Local Content and You, the Insightu series dedicated to bring you the good works as well as events of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, in Yenagoa and beyond. In our last episode, we focused on the liquefied petroleum gas LPG composite cylinder manufacturing plant in Polaco in Yenagoa local government area, a project conceptualized by the NCDMB in conjunction with a private company, Brongas Prime Industries Limited, in line with the NCDMB's mandate to serve as catalyst for the development of the Nigerian oil and gas industry. However, in today's episode, we will bring you the perspectives of the Executive Secretary of the NCDMB and some of his management staff on some key projects and achievements of the board. This is basically to educate you on the multifarious activities of the board and the basis as well as benefits of these intervention projects to the states and the communities where they are located. As the lead promoter of local content in the country, the NCDMB plays a very critical role in the growth and development of the nation's economy, especially in its area of oil and gas. Since its inception, the Local Content Board has progressively carried out its responsibilities of developing in-country capacities and capabilities. This it has done by consciously identifying and working with potential organizations, institutions, and even individuals towards meeting targets set in the NOJIC Act 2010. This approach has brought about the significant improvement of Nigerian content in the oil and gas industry from 5% a few years ago to the current position of 35%. Another strategy the board adopted in achieving this quantum leap is the facilitation of massive infrastructural development in the oil and gas sector through strategic partnerships with relevant institutions and agencies and organizations in the public and private sectors to set up impactful projects across the country. Here in Bayelsa State, one of the numerous big-ticket projects currently under construction that was initiated by the Local Content Board in partnership with other relevant stakeholders is a Brass Petroleum Products Terminal (BPPT) project sited around the Brass Island in Brass local government area. The Executive Secretary of the NCDMB, Engineer Simbi Kesiwabote, speaks further on the significance of the BPPT project to Bayelsa State with regards to job creation and the national economy.
The Brass Product Terminal, which is located somewhere in Brass, it's quite significant, particularly for the Niger Delta and in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State, despite the quantity of crude oil being produced and the quantity of gas that comes out of Bayelsa itself, it has no product terminal of any nature. So this is one statement that the current administration is making to ensure that development is taken to where the resource is coming from. Secondly, like you know, today there is so many of illegal refining going on within the Niger Delta. And they do this because of the product is not available for them to procure. And even if it is available, it is very expensive for them to procure. Most of the times, twice the approved price. That's what they get those products for, because it is not available. So the Brass Product Terminal will create an opportunity and make the product available within the riverine community. And then secondly, the nature of the terminal itself is to have the capacity to service offshore activities that happen within the coast of Brass. and Bayelsa as a whole, because almost 80% of the FPSOs you have today in the country are within that axis. And these FPSOs are serviced from Lagos, serviced from Calabar and the rest. But centrally placing that terminal, they will be able to service most of those FPSOs from that, and the platforms from that product terminal. In terms of jobs, we've said it before, within the construction stage, it has the capacity to create about 1,000 direct jobs and about 3,000 indirect and induced jobs. And during the operation phase, it will still maintain that number because a lot of activities will coalesce around that product terminal. So it's a win for the country, it's a win for the Niger Delta, and particularly a win for Bayelsa State. And that's perhaps one of the greatest significance because if you listen to the yearnings of the people, part of what they struggle with is this product comes out of the region, but they don't get to procure it at the approved price. So this terminal has the potential to make sure product gets to them when they need those products. And then secondly, NNPC some years back tried to develop the floating stations in order to dispense, is it PMS or OEGO to local boat operators, but that floating filling stations never really took off because the avenue to supply the product did not exist. So this product terminal can fill in that gap as well as make those floating fuel stations become useful at the end of the day. So it's quite significant, and I'm very much excited about it. Not just the brass community, like I said, to Bayelsa and to the whole of Niger Delta at large, because there will be a lot of participation of Bayelsans as well as Niger Delta people in the construction phase and in the operations phase.
We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll bring you perspectives from other members of the board's management team.
The Research and Development Fair and Conference is planned for Q3 of this year. And the essence is for us to, first of all, launch the 10-year R&D roadmap. So the R&D Fair would create that platform where we're going to launch the 10-year roadmap for R&D. We're going to also launch the Nigerian Content Research and Development Fund. It will also enable us to showcase some of the innovators that were created out of our own effort through the hackathon experience, through our own handholding, in terms of taking them from research ideas to patenting, to field development, to prototype development. So most of the breakthroughs that we have seen, we're going to showcase it during the R&D fair. Countries that succeeded in terms of growing their GDP are countries that actually invest in research and development. It's a forum that brings all these stakeholders together to discuss research and development, to promote R&D in Nigeria, and to create the necessary impact in terms of where the research and development should head to over the next 10 years.
Welcome back. The impact of the Local Content Act 2010 on the Nigerian oil and gas industry has been tremendous, especially in the area of capacity building and employment creation. The various projects and achievements recorded by the Local Content Board over the years did not happen by chance. Rather, they are the end results of carefully articulated plans that are actualized through the efforts of the various departments of the board. The arm of the NCDMB that is saddled with the responsibility of monitoring and driving compliance with the board's directives, mandates, and sanctions as outlined in the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Content Development (NOGIC) Act 2010 is a Monitoring and Evaluation Directorate, MED. The director Monitoring and Evaluation Directorate of the NCDMB, Akintunde Adelana, recounting some of the projects and achievements of the Local Content Board, mentioned the Acre Solutions Subsea Academy as another key project of the board cited in Bayelsa State that will massively benefit indigents of the state and host communities in the area of employment and capacity development.
So coming to the Acre solution, there was a project, the Airnot, and on the back of that project, we extracted a commitment from Acre Solution to build a subsea academy in Bayelsa. Specifically, I must tell you, over so many years, we had arguments over whether we are going to go ahead with it again or not. That's on the one hand. And then when we were unapologetic, when we were resolved, when they noticed that we were not going to change our mind, there was also the proposal to move it out of Bayelsa. I said, no, that wasn't the agreement. This got to be done here. At the end of the day, and let me also let you know here that as part of the mentoring effort, we had to employ so many methods, so many mechanisms to enforce, including suspension, including so many things that I wouldn't want to mention here. At the end of the day, we all got back, we spoke like friends, we came to an agreement, identified the sites, we got over the community challenges, we got over so many issues, and then we kick off. We did the groundbreaking, and then we kick off the project. Today, the project is about 99% completed and will be commissioned very soon. Talking about the impact of this project, it's a subsea academy, basically, and it's an academy of global standard. We believe citing it here, first and foremost, is the proximity to the local community. We also believe that it's long overdue. We need to begin to have facilities of this nature in the local oil producing community, and it's significant. One, Bayelsa is the homestead of oil and gas, where you remember Oloibiri. Then again is a seat of NCDMB, So it's significant in that sense. So you bring the training facility close by, people can then begin to tap into it. And then in another 3, 4, 5 years, we're going to have a lot of skilled personnel in this area. Aside from that, the industry can also benefit. We are bringing training facilities that were hitherto organized outside Nigeria, home, and not just home, but we are bringing it local. So that's another angle to it. It's going to save us a lot in terms of forex. It's going to save us a lot in that. It's going to develop a lot of competencies and skills. It's going to, again, some of these things we see as rocket science. By the time it's so close to us, you see it as simple, no big deal. Our engineers who hitherto see them as a big deal, no longer consider it a big deal, sitting just next door, and then we can, the ROV training, any other kind of training, because it's open. It's a training facility it's going to be for subsea basically, but it's available for some other sort of training. And here we can train for export. We can train to serve the region. We can train to serve the rest of Africa, and by extension, the rest of the world.
Let's take another quick break. When we return, we'll bring you comments from more top brass of the Local Content Board.
The Research and Development Fair and Conference is planned for Q3 of this year, and the essence is for us to, first of all, launch the 10-year R&D roadmap. So the R&D Fair would create that platform where we're going to launch the 10-year roadmap for R&D. We're going to also launch the Nigerian Content Research and Development Fund. It will also enable us to showcase some of the innovators that were created out of our own effort through the hackathon experience, through our own handholding, in terms of taking them from research ideas to patenting, to field development, to prototype development. So most of the breakthroughs that we have seen, we're going to showcase it during the R&D fair. Countries that succeeded in terms of growing their GDP are countries that actually invest in research and development. It's a forum that brings all these stakeholders together to discuss research and development, to promote R&D in Nigeria, and to create the necessary impact in terms of where the research and development should head to over the next 10 years.
Glad to have you back. The Corporate Communications and Zonal Coordination Department of the NCDMB is another critical part of the board's success story. This department of the NCDMB is charged with the responsibility of promoting public enlightenment of the board's mandate, projects, and activities. The Corporate Communications and Zonal Coordination is also tasked with managing the board's relationships with the external public, particularly the host communities of oil and gas facilities, as well as the coordination, planning, and management of NCDMB's participation at conferences, workshops, and seminars. The General Manager of Corporate Communications and Zonal Coordination, Dr. Gina Ogina, while speaking on the department's key functions and impact on the implementation of the NUJIC Act 2010, enumerates various achievements of the board in the areas of infrastructure development, capacity building, and job creation.
The Corporate Communication Department of the division has two key roles. One is to create awareness about the board's activities and projects. The second one is to project a positive image of the board to all stakeholders, both home and abroad. For Bayelsa State, for the Corporate Communication Department, we have done quite a lot. We organize a capacity building workshop for journalists in Bayelsa almost on a regular basis. We also donated transformers to NUJ in Bayelsa. We also have our annual science quiz for secondary school in Bayelsa State. We also have our annual Bayelsa Media Awards. And of course, we are partnering with several media organizations in Bayelsa State to help spread the good work that we are doing to all the nooks and crannies in Bayelsa State. Because the Bayelsa State is our host state, we have done quite a lot for the socio-economic improvement of the state, not only in the area of ICT centers, but I'm going to go for infrastructural development first. And because the activities are so numerous, I may have to actually read from my list. So for infrastructural development, amongst others, we have this headquarters building, 17 floors. As you already know, it's one of the, if not the tallest building in the South, South, and Southeast. Now, why did we come up with 17 floors in the first place? So when we started the agency about 10 years ago, we were trying to convince the oil and gas industries to take up office space in Bayelsa State, at least those of them that are operating here. So most of the feedback we get from them is that there's lack of decent office space in Bayelsa State. So these and other reasons made the board to decide that we need something that can serve just the accommodation of our immediate staff. And of course, we are very conscious about sustainability. So we are spending so much money to have our own office building. How do we sustain it? So by creating more office space and getting other corporate bodies to also inhabit that office space, we'll also be able to have funds for maintaining the building. So at the end of the day, it becomes a commercial venture, a successful one, than just becoming a liability. You know, a liability is something you have that you have to continuously be pumping in money to maintain that thing you have. So, but in this case now, we are turning it into a sustainable commercial venture by bringing in other corporate bodies to occupy the rest of the floors that will not be taken up by the agency. So thereby turning it around. So the maintenance of the structure will be done through the revenues that will accrue from the other occupants of the building. So by doing this for Bayelsa State, that means we are bringing in more corporate bodies into the state, which will of course also lead to more employment of Bayelsa people, because these corporate bodies are going to engage people from here. Of course, there are also other benefits that will fall out from this. So that is for the headquarters building.
Also speaking, the NCDMB's Corporate Communications Manager, Barrister Nabot Oyeso, highlights some of the board's key projects that are domiciled in Bayelsa State, pointing out the various areas where indigents and the host communities benefit from these projects.
So when you retain work in Bayelsa, if there's a plant that's established in Bayelsa, we have LPG plant manufacturing in Polako. So with this in Bayelsa, it creates the opportunity for Bayelsans to even understand how to handle various components of cylinder manufacturing activity. They will be employed. It creates employment. It affects various families. We have oil and gas park currently being constructed in Emea 1 in Obeya local government. That is creating a lot of jobs at this very stage of civil construction. And when it comes on stream, it has potential to create about 2,000 to 3,000 jobs for Bayelsans alone. There is ongoing work now to commence construction of brass petrochemical and fertilizer plant. Again, the potential is huge because it will create jobs. It's going to lead to human capacity development. And this is why we want Bayelsans to be aware of some of these programs that are ongoing so that people can position themselves to benefit, so that people will understand how the board is actually affecting their lives. Not that it tends to be like a straw in the air. People say, well, the board is there, I don't know how I tend to benefit. But when you see your own person or somebody related to you that is employed in a particular facility, and you know that the board that actually promoted that investment to come into Bayelsa, people will now have proper understanding of what government is doing and how government projects and programs are affecting their own lives, their daily lives as it were. We have what we call annual capacity building workshop for media practitioners, not only in Bayelsa here, but also in the South Side. But Bayelsa own is most of the time. Most of the time, they are more in number. We bring more of the media practitioners from Bayelsa. We have held it here in Bayelsa. Last year, we held it in Port Harcourt. By the end of this year, we determine where else we take it to, just to create a sense of balance, a sense of belonging for every media practitioner. So in brief, these are some of the ways we have partnered to impact on the life of media in Bayelsa State. We are also going to create other structures to have more interaction with community stakeholders and NGOs. When the picture is very clear, when it matures, we will roll it out fully so that we'll have more opportunity to interact, because this will give us the benefit to even get feedback from stakeholders that will also guide our own relationship with the stakeholders. So these are some of the things we expect that members of the public should be looking up to this year.
And that's all we have for you this week on the program. It has been a pleasure having your company in this episode once again. Please join us next week, same time, same station, as we bring you more of the good works and happenings at the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB. For now, goodbye and stay safe.